And welcome back to the Hotline. We are talking the McLaren team orders debacle is not going away. We said we didn't have that massive a problem with it, but oh my gosh, does everyone else? Were we in the wrong? I don't know. I still think so that we were. Well, let's see on the other side of this. So welcome to McLaren team order chaos, papaya rules. It was about this time last year as well that there was people were sniggering at McLaren, and Zak Brown has finally, Andrea Stella saw his piece as we spoke about in our race review video, but Zak Brown has finally come out and said his piece. The McLaren chief executive, he's hailed great teamwork and respect. Obviously, of course he would. He is McLaren. He's the boss of McLaren, wouldn't he? And he's talking about the teamwork and respect shown by both Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris. Now, you do have to wonder, though, if this was Abu Dhabi for the championship, obviously it's not happening this way, is it? Absolutely not. So, McLaren missed out on a victory, and this was the first time since Canada's Canadian Grand Prix that Max Verstappen blew them away. I don't think there was anything McLaren could have done to win it. So, McLaren then, what happened? Well, the working base team, it found itself at the centre of what was this team order debacle. And as the race was finishing, Norris was second, Piastri was third. They asked Norris, do you want to come in first or second? And he kind of intimated, look, I'm happy for Piastri to come in first as long as I don't get an undercut to help Piastri out. McLaren were maybe the tiniest bit worried about Charles Leclerc. That did happen. Piastri got sort of the undercut. He was about 3 seconds behind. He was closing on Lando at the time, to be fair as well. And then Lando Norris came in, had a really bad pit stop. One mechanic seemed to be asleep with the jack. Don't get me wrong, I couldn't do that. They still do a fantastic job. McLaren world champions in terms of world record holders, how fast they can do the pit stops. Sadly, this was not one of them. And then Lando Norris came out. He was behind Piastri. McLaren were like, look, can he swap the positions? Very similar to Hungary. It was, in a way, very similar to Hungary. The driver behind the lead McLaren driver not going in the pits. The driver behind the lead McLaren driver going into the pits and getting at a disadvantage. So, yeah, in that respect, it was. And they parted with convention, as I said, by obviously pitting that Piastri first. So that's what happened. Now, as we've already said, Zak Brown has come out and said great teamwork and respect from Lando and Oscar. Secures another double podium and valuable points. Keep pushing as a team. Now focus on Baku. And then that's pretty much all he said. He's come out and kind of said that. Meh. But other people are saying many other things. Even here it says, you probably saw it at the race, Verstappen's telling response to McLaren, to McLaren over the team orders about, we've all heard about his radio call about the slow stop. And Max Verstappen made his feelings clear with such an order with Timo Glock, saying the reigning world champion would never have done that. McLaren raised eyebrows at the Italian Grand Prix, obviously. There's going on about the Oscar thing, etc., etc. Verstappen was leading the race. He was informed what was happening behind him with GP, and he said Norris and Piastri have swapped, and Max basically went, ha-ha, just because he had a slow stop, question mark. Piastri's pretty much saying it wasn't our business. The Dutchman, Max Verstappen, was asked about his opinion after the race, and he said, to be fair to him, I know you guys want a fun answer on that, he said, but it's not my problem. Again, not my problem. It's better not to talk about it. And he didn't. But as we all know about his reaction, yeah. But there we go. So, speaking to Deutschland, former F1 Timo Glock summed it up, though. F1 driver. Verstappen would never have done that, he thinks. The German, however, as in Timo Glock, he felt McLaren's response to the slow pit stop was not the fault of Norris, was fair, but warned the team, and a lot of people are saying this, that McLaren have now set a precedent on this, and he hopes it doesn't come back to bite Piastri. There was a 6-point swing. If Piastri then loses the championship by 6 points or less, oh dear. He implemented it very quickly and changed immediately in terms of Glock said, in terms of, Piastri's reaction. I hope you won't remember it again at the end of the season. You want McLaren to decide that on the track between the drivers purely in terms of performance. Yeah, okay. Toto Wolf has also come out and said a few things. He said, you set a precedent in relation to this that is very difficult to undo. What if the team does another mistake? It's not a pit stop. Do you switch them around? I think a lot of people, including the great Toto, all these people want to quote. I don't think they understand the fact that I'm not defending it per se, but Lando Norris, he was asked, do you want first or second? He said, no, I'll go in after Oscar, kind of doing Oscar the favour. Now, if Oscar was the second driver in, it may well have been him that got the bad pit stop. We don't know. Maybe in some parallel universe somewhere he did. And by doing that, yes, Norris allowed himself to potentially be undercut. Even McLaren said no. And then he pitted, and it was the bad pit stop that obviously got Oscar behind him. And I think it was very similar to Hungary. Part of me wants now for McLaren to put a line underneath the whole thing and say, look, we're probably winning the Constructors' Championship. Touch wood, if you're a McLaren fan. We're favourites anyway at the moment. And one of you is potentially winning the Drivers' Just Race, and let's see. And I think that's probably the best thing now to do it. But even with Toto Wolf, as I said, what he said. Let's see. He says, did he say anything else? He said there's no right or wrong. Wolf told Planet F1's Tom Meyer, and I'm curious to see how it ends out. This is now when he talks about, you set a precedent, it's very difficult to undo. What if the team does another mistake and it's not a pit stop? Do you switch them around? But we've already just talking about that. He carries on by saying, but then equally, because of a team mistake, making a driver that is trying to catch up lose points is not fair either. So I think we're going to get our response of whether that was right today towards the end of the season when it heats up. Fair point. David Coulthard has also come out and talking about it being manipulated. That word hasn't been used since WW 2021. David Coulthard says he can't help but feel McLaren manipulated the result. I don't think they did, but let's scroll down to see what the Scottish said. Even Piastri, to be fair, Piastri did plead his case. I mean, we said that a slow stop was part of racing, so I don't really get what's changed, but he added, if you really want to do it, then I'll do it. There was more to it than that, we all know. And he ended up moving over for Norris. But Coulthard acknowledges that winning the Constructors' Championship, as with pretty much every team, other than Red Bull, is McLaren's priority, irrespective of what teammate takes the driver's crown. He feels the team should have let it play out on track. After all, a botched pit stop is part of racing, but it wasn't just the botched pit stop, was it? But he said, so you can see the wheel gun went on, the wheel gun came off, they weren't sure, the former McLaren driver said on Channel 4, and they get a sequence of lights to tell them everything has been done properly. He said there was just a hesitation, a rare mistake. Given that you just highlighted the brilliant stop they did for Oscar, that's just racing. They obviously felt that the race was neutralised with Lando having the advantage coming into the stop. They feel he's been disadvantaged because of the team, not because of something that Oscar's done on track. Sort of, yeah, in a way, and they've asked him to switch. On one hand, I get it, because they've been playing that card since last year. They focus on trying to win the Constructors' Championship, Coulthard said. He carried on by saying, inside the racer, and inside the little boy that grew up a fan of the sport, I want to see wheel-to-wheel racing. Coulthard, we all do. And yes, sometimes engines blow up, and yes, sometimes you get involved in this incident. This just feels a little bit manipulating the result, and that feels uncomfortable, I have to say. But he did acknowledge that McLaren were, as you know, well within their rights to do it. And this is from motorsport.com. I thought this is quite interesting. Some of the people having their opinions on it. Scott McLaughlin from IndyCar fame. If Oscar Piastri gets Lando to undercut to protect third position, I get swapping them back around after that sequence. But if the team makes the mistake, that's not on Oscar Piastri to sort their stuff up. I think Lando passes him anywhere on pace, but that's a wild decision from the pit wall, in my opinion. Okay, Will Buxton has come out and said, agreed, hangover of last season is their overriding concern with providing the perception of parity. Follow the logic, they've established a conclusion, and ultimately, you'd ask the driver to park up if their teammate had a mechanical. Tom Gaymore set an interesting precedent moving forward, and obviously Zak Brown has come out. And then, what was it? Killershaw, Lando Norris is being held and spoon-fed a championship battle at the expense of the much better Oscar Piastri. Spicy. And Tom97HD said, by the way, McLaren making that team order is spot on. Therefore, their issue to fix. Lando shouldn't lose points as he did nothing wrong. Also, Oscar did nothing to get ahead. Well, yeah. Well, I guess he didn't. It was the team that made a mistake. But there we go. If you made it to the end, though, please think about giving us a subscribe. If you're not, if you are subscribed, that's fantastic. Well done. You just watching this, though, is more than enough for us. If you want to do a bit more, hit that like button. But until then, thank you very much for watching. We'll speak to you soon. But above all else, stay safe.